Hey, welcome to the Our Movies Podcast. I'm Cam.
I'm Luke.
And today we have a guest, Brooke Wilson. And we are starting our Halloween-themed, scary type of movies. I know we're a little behind. We had to get Joker out the way. And we had to do Rebel Ridge. Rebel Ridge, which is bad timing. We should have started then, but Joker we had to get.
This Joker, that was one Cam and I talked about leading up to it that we knew we had to do.
A necessity, if you will. But today we have Brooke Wilson, and I asked Brooke if she can pick a movie, just a Brooke movie. I know Brooke is a big fan of horror, and I didn't want to do the basic pop culture figures like Jason, what we did Halloween last year, and random scary movies. So I wanted to do something
more of the niche topics.
For sure. And I think we have a very good one this week. We have The Fly, as you read by the title. And this kind of I won't explain it for Brooke, but Brooke, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Also, it's really cool to be here, so thank you for having me. This is the first time I've been on a podcast, hopefully not the last, but so I'm going to cherish
Of course,
this.
you're going to have a great first experience.
Awesome. I'm going to hold you to that. But yeah, I'm a graduate student at Eastern Illinois University. I'm obtaining my master's in media studies right now. I have a special interest in horror film. It means a lot of things. I like to do textual analysis, so what we're doing here right now, talking about a film. I also have a special interest in horror fans themselves. That's what my thesis is, actually. I'm taking a look at women who are horror fans and why they root for the unjustified killer in slasher film.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, so don't ask me questions on it yet. I haven't gathered the data. You can have me back like next semester and I can talk about it, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm just a horror gal,
That's great. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
We look forward to this conversation. And as you read again, we are talking about The Fly.
1986.
For sure.
Right.
And it stars Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, David Cronenberg, Joy Bauschel, and John Getz.
Small cast.
Very small
cast.
A shorter runtime, too.
Yeah.
It's only like an hour and a half.
And it's great.
Don't you appreciate an hour and a half of
Yes.
Gosh.
And I feel like I've been watching 2 hours since we started this podcast, even for fun movies. Actually, that's a lie, because I just watched Pharrell.
Pharrell was pretty
piece by
short.
piece.
And that was a good movie, too.
Hour and a half in the den. I could talk about. We should talk about this another day.
Yeah.
Another day. I love
Review in the Den from me if you wish to read.
So happy you did it. I wanted to do it, but I'm biased. I love Pharrell.
I got you. Don't worry.
Anyway, so pretty much what the film is about, it's about Jeff Goldblum, also known as, or in the film, Seth Brundle, and he is a mad scientist, and he is working on a teleportation device. And a journalist by the name of Veronica, she goes to a science convention just trying to get a story, finds a story about someone, and she stumbles upon him. I guess he wasn't trying to spit game per se, but he was trying to swat like, oh, I've got this cool invention back in my apartment if you want to check it out.
He was trying to get some.
And she comes over just strictly for the story. They were on 2 different pages at the beginning. And the teleportation device works eventually, but as he goes, and the problem at first was he couldn't do anything that was alive. That's not the word he used.
Organic. You can transmit organic life forms.
Yeah.
Nothing of the flesh.
Yes. And then he gets drunk one night and he goes in, but he doesn't go by himself. The whole thing was everything's supposed to go in by himself. But 2 minutes before he goes in, a fly randomly appears and ends up in the transportation device with him, which ultimately morphs the two. And we get
The Fly.
Yes.
1986.
So let's start off with general thoughts. Thank you, Brooke. As our guest, Brooke, would you like to go first? And can you talk about why you picked this as well?
Sure. So, general thoughts about this film. I was talking to Cam about this before we started. I don't really have a favorite movie, but if I was forced to pick one, this would probably be it. So that's why I picked The Fly, because it is one of my personal favorite movies, especially of Cronenberg. Love Cronenberg films. You also asked me to pick something that was horror, and I was trying to think of something that was classic horror since it is October.
Mhm.
I know this is an eccentric film, but as far as like body horror and Cronenberg goes, it is pretty studio. So I feel like a lot of people have seen this or heard of this, um, or at least they could watch it and understand it the first time around. And so it that wasn't the top reason why I picked it, not because of ease, but I did pick it because I just figured that you guys would like to talk about it, right? I didn't want to pick something so far left that we couldn't. It would just be me the whole time. You know what I mean? Um, Surface level, I like this film because I love the practical effects. I think they're really well done.
I will agree.
I think Cronenberg is an amazing storyteller as well. And the way that he wrote this script is amazing. And the way that the characters interact with each other, I think is just unmatched. Underlying reasons of why I like this film, I can connect to it on a personal level.
Where you want to fly?
Yeah, we were flying or something.
No, the idea of the body inevitably decaying is like a fear that I have, right? Because we're all going to grow old. And so that's something that I think about, right? And so I can relate to it in that way. There's a lot of different connections I have to this film, and we could talk about, like, maybe we should get on a more comfortable level. We could talk about it later in the podcast.
Okay.
We'll talk about it in this podcast, but let's just dip our toes in for a second, because I have some pretty deep, reads of this film, and I think other people can too. It's pretty interpretive.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd like to hear
what that means.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I want to hear more. This is a favorite film of mine, right? But I want to hear what you guys thought. Like, you don't have to say you like it if you don't.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hate it.
Oh.
Well, you can go next.
Yeah, no,
Or-
I'll spin off of one of the things you said too. The practical effects
Mm-hmm.
really stuck out to me because CGI kind of back during that time wasn't as developed as it is now, so you can't make epic feature length stuff like Avatar with it.
Yeah.
So you got to pick and choose where you use it. And I know in the teleporters, the little particles that dart around, that's CGI. But most of the grotesque gore is Jeff Goldblum, who plays Seth, the man who eventually turns into a fly. He's wearing a costume this entire time, and it's all practical. And then the test baboon that goes in the machine and gets ripped inside out.
Yeah.
That's all practical.
Yes.
No, they did not take a baboon and turn it inside out. I mean, they redesigned it. But there's that, and then there's the close-up shots of the man in the bar getting his hand ripped and his bone sticks out a little bit.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that I'm that's really cool. And
Yes.
the way that you can design that to make it so believable.
Mhm.
Because I was sitting there watching it on the couch and actively oh,
Right.
Yeah.
oh. And I don't really get that way most of the time.
And it's crazy because it's not like what we see today. Like you can really get into depth about
Oh, yeah.
the whole arms coming out and it being more visually disgusting than ever, but it still gives that same effect even with the not as good technology,
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, too, because I know a guy who does VFX stuff for films and is a compositing editor. Shout out Tanner Bartlett if you're watching.
Hi, Tanner.
But for his end of thing, whenever he worked on the menu, I knew that yeah,
Really?
yes.
You know a guy that worked on the menu?
Yeah.
Where'd you meet him? Sorry.
Through my journalism teacher at high school.
Nice.
Yeah, so anyway, whenever he worked on that, I know whenever him and I were talking, they had to get reference material to
Okay.
do all of that visuals to make everything look really believable.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering for this, how you have to go about that, because I feel like it's less disturbing to make it artificially than it is to look at dismembered limbs and stuff and then be okay, now we have to practically go make this by hand and then test the ripping parts and the enzymes coming out of fingernails and make sure it all works.
Yeah. That it?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's something interesting.
yeah.
I know for a lot of the practical effects, they looked at textbooks of disease and just based a lot of the makeup of what Brundlefly looked like, just based on boils and different diseases that mess with the skin and stuff. And
Yeah, and I mean, it all looked very believable from start of the film to the very
Yes.
end too.
Yeah. Okay. No, I
What do you think, Kim?
is that not good enough?
No, it
That's
was.
beautiful. I appreciate that.
No, I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just, I never know when you stop.
I mean, not during the Joker episode. I talked for 20 minutes straight. My bad.
Dude.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's cool. I enjoyed this movie. It's kept me entertained. I didn't know how short it was. I think it was a good runtime too, but the way the pacing was kind of the problem for me.
Okay. I'd love to talk about that more.
Ooh.
I didn't hear either one of you.
We both want to hear more.
Yeah.
Okay, right now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I feel
No, tomorrow,
Okay,
please.
yeah,
Can we
right.
say
Send it in an email, please. It'd be much more helpful that way.
No, I feel like the pacing, it didn't get into the horror quick enough, but it was a very good story told. The build-up was good,
Yeah.
but it was focused on something else prior. It was focused on the character relationship, which is also good for storytelling purposes, but as far as getting to this whole thing we're waiting for, The Fly, I feel like that part's going a lot faster, because I feel like we didn't get into this horror, this trend, this morphing until about 45, 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
And by that part, we're already halfway through the movie.
And something that like I kind of noticed with what you're saying too, like it takes a while to get into that horror moments. There's key points that I can pick out, and I'm like, surely something's gonna happen. You've got that music in the background, the low camera angles, kind of like swaying back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's just him walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
And it's not even like anything horror, because like surely there's got to be something spooky's gonna happen, and it's just unlocking the door with his keys.
It's not bad though. I appreciate the time they spend with what's up.
I'm listening intensely. I don't mean to have a face of disgust.
Yeah.
I had a face of disgust seeing how grotesque the film is. And that's a good thing. If a film can make me do that, props to you.
I agree.
I appreciated the how we established the characters and who's who and what's what, and we're not speeding past that. But
I love character development.
The relationship between Seth and Veronica, thank you, was drawn out too long, you know?
Well, let me ask you this. Would it be the same film if the whole film was like the last 10 minutes where it was just rapid body horror stuff going on? The first act, I agree, there's no horror elements going on whatsoever. It's all character development. That's why I like this so much, is because it's not a creature feature. It's a body about the transition of someone's body, and it takes its time with that. And it starts us off with building this relationship between Ronnie and Seth, which makes the ending so much more heartbreaking, right? If we didn't have that sort of character development throughout the beginning, throughout that first act, I don't think it would have the lasting effect that it has on me. Do you disagree?
I disagree as well.
I mean, after this movie ended, like, I've seen this movie probably 10 times. Every time it affects me just the same, which is a lot to say about a film.
Okay.
I feel like every time I watch it is the first time I'm watching it. But also, I just have it just makes me feel weird for a few hours after I watch it. And I feel like if the first act was not that character development, it wouldn't be as effective.
Go ahead.
It's not, let's hear what the man has to say.
Oh, wow. You thought I had stuff I could write in the podcast.
Please.
Go ahead, Kim.
Men don't talk enough, please. Go tell me.
She's not wrong.
This is all fun. Please.
Fun for you.
Let's hear what the man.
That is a lie. But no, back on track. Cam, tell us what you want to say.
I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I feel the movie cuts off right when he dies. So
Yeah,
they
I dislike that
if
too.
they kept going a little longer,
What more do you need?
you had this build up. I can't feel bad for you because I don't know how you're feeling after. Like, you can obviously assume that she's feeling bad. But in another thing, she kills him, but literally 2 lines before, maybe not 2. She's like, he puts the gun to his head, and she's like, no, I can't do this. Takes 2 steps back, right in the head.
Bang.
You know? And I'm like, you couldn't do it a second ago, but now you did it. And I get that's what
Yeah.
needs to happen. But if I want to sympathize, if I want to get the feeling you're feeling, I feel like I need to stay with them a little bit longer
And for me,
after the kill?
after
Yes.
the kill.
Nah.
because for me too, like staying after the film, what's his name? Stathis.
Yes.
The guy that's there too. The enzymes like burn his hand and like foot off,
Yeah.
and then he's like knocked out for like that last portion after the gun gets transferred to Veronica.
Mhm.
So instead of the film cutting off, the thing that I wanted to know is like, what happens to Stathis? Like, is he okay?
Dude, I don't give a. That guy is terrible.
I mean, he
Very
is.
much so. But
That's good acting. But I still want to know.
Absolutely.
Just make me curious.
Huh? No, that's all I had to say. I don't
Oh.
like Stathis. What a wart. I don't like that man at all.
Word.
That's a callback to earlier.
Yeah, you guys weren't here for that.
But
It's over for me.
I don't know. I don't need that moment afterwards. Have you guys ever seen any other Cronenberg films? David Cronenberg. You've got like Videodrome.
Trying to think
The
if I've seen
Brood, Scanners.
Someone just told me not to watch Scanners.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume that you seem very like
There-
opposed to that.
I'm a Cronenberg fan, so I want
Right,
people to watch all Cronenberg.
I don't know.
Is that the first one I would suggest? No, it's The Fly, man. But
I've not seen any. I'm looking at his filmography.
well, the
now.
thing about Cronenberg is that he has a very interpretive eye when it comes to film. And so he leaves a lot of holes and a lot of gaps for the audience members. This is why I'm a Cronenberg fan. And I have a theory that Cronenberg fans are both sexy and intellectual. Sexy being, and this movie doesn't really get into it, but he has a lot of themes on sexual awakening in a lot of his films in terms of horror, which is really interesting. But also intellectual because he has very interpretive films where he's not feeding us answers at every moment, right? It's not like perfectly wrapped at the end with a bow.
Mhm.
It's left for the audience to interpret what they thought Veronica's response was going to be after she killed Brundlefly, right? That's my favorite part, is because I'm gonna watch this and create the ending that I need it to be, right?
Yeah.
It's like a cognitive workout. That's why I like this film
It's
a
not,
lot. And
it-
Cronenberg film.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
it's not a problem for me. I was just saying how if I wanted to get that emotion where I'm stuck with the like, oh no, like I have an emotion with these characters, I just couldn't get it because I didn't see it. And I don't have it doesn't knock off any rating points for me that he just left it up for me to decide. 'Cause I kind of like that in psychological movies, although this isn't really psychological, but just to be left to whatever I think and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think for me, it's very situational. Like in certain films, if you do it, you can do it right. In others, I just want the answers. And this one's kind of like muddied for me because like I can understand your point of view and like you can leave it open.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also at the same time am like, did the hospital guy get his window fixed? Did like what happened to the pregnancy afterward now that she just didn't get the chance to actually abort it or anything?
Mhm.
So like there's like questions like that that are unanswered for me that like I want answers to, and I guess I could interpret that, but at the same time, like if you brought the plot point up, I prefer you to answer it.
I think it's unique here too because all of it's new and no one knows what he even has this device, so no one in the world knows what's gonna happen.
Right.
So
There is The Fly 2, which there is a sequel. It is not a Cronenberg film, but it wraps up the story a lot more in the way that you would like. So
I
feel
have
like,
to check that out.
Yeah.
And it might be higher rated than when I gave this one.
really,
I would
maybe.
love to know. I would love to know. We can do a part 2, The Fly 2.
Fly Part 2.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd be down. I'm game.
I guess trying to think of
What else can we dive into?
I think one other thing that I really noticed when watching it is just how freaky these two people are. Not in like scary freaky, like sexually freaky.
Yeah. That's a little bit of that sexual awakening I was talking about.
Yeah, because
To me, it's very tame in this film, and maybe not to you guys.
I would say this is more tame than I feel like other movies could be. But
Mhm.
It's the 80s too, so I don't know how crazy they were.
right, he had like a mullet. Like I don't.
Yeah,
But like one thing that I noticed is like the first scene like is at that showcase science thing,
Yeah.
and Veronica and Seth meet, right? And then their conversation kind of ends. They move on, and they run into each other again. And the Stathis, who is also Veronica's editor at the newspaper, they run into each other at that office, and then she goes kind of back with him for recording the book after getting lunch and stuff. And there is like that character development between the two of them. But then in the span of 2 days right after that, she's all over him.
Yeah.
And I mean all over him. And so I'm like really caught back by that. I'm like, did it really take like 2 days? Like, did you not talk this out any prior? Or
You ever been in love? I don't know.
I have a
how to
girlfriend, but I
respond to
promise
that.
you, it took longer than 2 days.
Well,
Sometimes people just know what they want. I don't know.
I mean, she wanted him. It was very clear in the film.
there was a lot of compassion going on between them. Yeah, I think it was also really exciting too. Like, you could tell that Brundle does not get the ladies very often. Like,
No, he has 5 outfits of the same thing.
Yeah, well, I think that's
not bad.
that's pretty noble, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like a stereotypical kind of thing.
Oh, it's
Like-
for the same fit every day?
Yeah.
Well, and he doesn't know much outside of his own work, right? And so, like, relationships with other people, especially other people who could be potential partners, he's not used to something like that. That's why he was trying to lure Veronica back. Like, okay, she's hot. Let's get her back to my place. I want to show her this really cool thing I'm doing. And then,
And his other cool thing. But
right.
yeah. All right. So one of the things that like you had mentioned too was the sexual like awakening thing. Can you elaborate on what that means in regards to this film?
Yeah. So in many Cronenberg films, there's a theme of sexual awakening. I think this one's a little bit more tame than the others. But you definitely see, I mentioned it before, you see a little sexual awakening happening with Brundle, where he's obviously socially awkward and he meets a woman and is like, okay, love is a thing. I am a person. I can have sex. Like, let's do this. And you mentioned like it happened really quickly in a
quick.
span of 2 days.
2
and you're
days.
like, wow, I can't believe that. That's sort of the nature of Cronenberg films, where characters sort of tune into that very quickly and they don't know how to control it. And you can see themes of that happening in this film where, I mean, there was a time where Veronica said something like, I don't know how you could still be doing this. It's been like 5 hours or something crazy. And he's like, I still have energy. I'm not done yet, right? Where he has this impulse to have sex all of a sudden, and he doesn't know how to control it. That's just what I'm talking about. There are other Cronenberg films, if this intrigues other people or if this intrigues you, that you can watch where it dives much more into this. Crash is an example. I won't get much into it, but that's a film about people who are turned on by car accidents. And so it's strange. Exactly. That's the Cronenberg way, right? But yeah, he has a lot of themes of self-identity, transition of the body, and sexual awakening. That's sort of his thing. He's like a trifecta. You always see something of that going on in a Cronenberg film.
And I guess you could, maybe not in like those specific things, but you can kind of relate those little, I don't want to say tropes because that's not the right thing, but the little things that directors do. Like
their signature kind of?
Yeah, like their signature stuff. So
Yeah.
like maybe for Cronenberg it's this, and then if
Yes.
we kind of look at Damien Chazelle with Whiplash and La La Land, like the whip pan, maybe that would be like his
Interesting.
thing. You know, like each director kind of brings
Yeah.
something to the table.
Yeah.
So would you say that like Cronenberg maybe brings those trifecta to the table every time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are things, I think, through the lens that you could point out that Cronenberg does, but it's mostly through his storytelling and those elements that I talked about that contribute to the narrative. I think that's Cronenberg's best director/writer quality.
Can I tell you something that I don't think helped the narrative?
Okay.
Stathis.
Hate this man. Yeah, we can talk more
Yeah.
about him. Let's
So-
do that.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
Oh,
It
we're
makes a
not
good
supposed
antagonistic
Yeah.
force. That's a good storytelling thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wasn't really invested with his relationship to Veronica, honestly. And I feel like if you took their previous romance out of it and just had it like him being editor, most things would still stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think certain plot points, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just like giving another perspective.
right.
I think him taking her story wouldn't have happened if they hadn't already been something. Because if he just had a crush on her, then
I suppose that's true, because then whenever he found out that she was staying with him, he was like, I'm going to run him out of business.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And I feel like that was definitely incentive for her to keep going back to Brundle as well and develop this relationship. Even though she didn't really like Stathis, she was like, I'm going to do whatever I please. I'm going to go see this man. You hate him? Good. I love him. I'm going to go to him.
Yeah, I could see that. It just like offset me, I guess, watching it. I was like, can we get back to the
Yeah.
or like the bulk of it?
I thought that would like it would have taken it away too. I feel like that would have been something else to establish, which would have taken it longer.
Sure.
Trying to establish she has feelings for her, like I wouldn't like trying to those movies when you're trying to force a relationship or force something.
Yeah.
That
that doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah, I think this would have been something, but like since we're on the journalism topic, is the lack of objectivity from Veronica was, you're coming in to do a story and you're coming in to do a story.
You getting all freaky about it.
You go in and do a story and
See, like,
flies be like,
Yeah.
what was that?
flies, they do this.
Oh, yeah,
But
like,
yeah, she comes in and I know it's good for the story, and it's such a little thing that most people probably wouldn't care about, but I don't know, she just lost all her things, and
to me,
did that make sense? I know
No, tell me more about like
Okay.
the objectivity.
So when you're coming,
What do you even mean by that?
okay, just here at the den, we're not supposed to interview friends. Not this, but like for regular story, because this is a podcast you can talk to, whatever.
Yeah.
And so for stories, you're not supposed to talk to people you know, your friends, people you're just close with, because they can give you an answer that's kind of biased and
Sure.
it's like a conflict of interest kind of.
correct.
Oh, you were mad that she was boning him, or the other way around, I
Yeah.
suppose.
I mean,
While trying to
she
develop
definitely
the
was.
story.
Not mad, but it's just something that's not supposed to happen. I get that it does happen. I make friends out of the people I interview,
Right.
but
Right. Naturally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
To this extent.
I'm it,
No.
but
And before you get to your thing, though, let me hit you with this. Now,
Okay.
she did move from doing a feature on this guy to writing a book with him. And so,
Yes.
right? Is this where you were going? And
Kind of.
It's like now she's in the field with him. And so she gets an even more close and in-person point of view of Brundle this way.
although I don't understand the ethics of writing a book, I know from just I don't know if there are what ethics
There
goes
are,
into
really.
that,
Well,
but
have you read it?
Oh, well, I think she just said you don't read books.
No, you
No.
people are just all over the place with it.
yeah, I don't know. Just coming because she works at the newspaper or magazine or whatever.
Yeah,
And I know just you're not supposed to do that. And
sure.
Yeah, from a journalism standpoint, you're not supposed to do that. And I kind of forgave it and looked past it because, like you said, they did shift to doing a book. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
she's out of the clear then.
Yeah, she's
Mostly.
in the field with him.
I
right?
get it.
And in bed. But mostly the
In the field, in the bed,
Nice. Hold on.
not in the telepod.
Say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
She was in the field, and in bed too. But
Not me
Yikes.
immediately forgetting what I said.
But I do get your guys' points. Like
Yeah.
you're doing a book now. I miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
And
but
yeah, that's not to say you're. I hate to feel like I am constantly rebuttaling what you guys are
no,
saying.
you're wrong.
This is
You're not wrong.
No.
But after I explained what I'm telling you guys, if you're just like, I still don't buy it, okay.
yeah. That's why we like
I
it. We get to have a conversation. You give us different perspective.
And I think that's how like two dudes should always be. Like we can always disagree, but as long as we explain it, and then we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic two dudes.
We're
Talking
just-
movies.
You did talking
Yeah.
movies, man. What more do you want from us?
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
But I do have another journalism thing
Okay.
to
Yes, sir.
follow up, and this is for Cam specifically because I'm going to quiz you a little bit.
You're gonna quiz me.
Yeah.
We are
I
not
want to see how well you paid attention.
I love this.
to the film.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a two-parter, but the journalism kind of like leads into another thing, right? So,
I'm scared.
okay, so I think it was Rebel Ridge when we were talking about it. Okay. And I said that like watching and growing up watching Marvel movies and projects, I being the comic and superhero nerd I am, I'm looking out for those little details to hint at things to come.
Mhm.
And so even in other films, if it doesn't hint towards anything, there's little things that I can pick up on.
Even if there's
Like if it doesn't like lead to a future plot point, like little details that I can pick up on and be like, that's interesting.
okay.
So in the film, there's a moment where, like, I think it's the first night Veronica's at his house, and she starts recording him to like for the interview. But what does she not do during that
She does
recording?
not ask for his permission.
Right.
She does not ask consent to record, which I also did not like. But,
But I can prove that I can maybe hopefully change your mind.
as a journalist, why would you want to?
Okay. But because the film,
It's not.
because of where
sorry.
the film takes place, Legally, you can. So
Oh, in the 80s? Or
No,
in an imaginary world?
where it's located. So in journalism, we have this thing where if you go to ask somebody, or if you want to record someone for an interview or something, in select states, you have to ask. But some other states have a one-party system where you don't have to ask, and if one person is consciously aware that they're recording, it's legal. And this movie takes place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
That is right.
And
It is
the only
Canada.
reason you can know that is if you watch I believe, like the dream sequence where she goes in to get an abortion. It's called the CN Tower is in the background. And
Yes,
so if you see that and
it
Ontario,
is.
yeah,
I
And-
love that you know that.
and Toronto, Ontario, Canada is a one-party system. So as long as one person is aware that they are recording, they legally do not have to ask.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I knew that was a thing. I don't know what states or places, but
Now you do.
I knew it was a thing, and if it's in Canada, I can't really and it's legal out there, I can't really get mad at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat little fact.
Such a nerd.
I
That's a
love
good.
that.
That's a
I
good
love that too.
point, though.
Yeah, that's.
Did you read that? Or you just figured.
I figured it out.
You just
Kind of.
real.
Like I saw that she didn't record or didn't ask, and I was like, that seems
Yeah.
odd.
I love
and
that
then,
you
like,
questioned
Yeah,
it.
and then watching later, that building showed up, and I was like, that's familiar. Where's that? And then found it.
You
I
looked
was,
it up?
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, is this place one party? And then sure enough, it is.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can't. I know what the
Neat
thing.
little
so-
flex.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
He's also eating Canadian chocolates as well.
Ooh, I didn't think.
So it's not American candy, and so that's also another way. And also Cronenberg is Canadian, right? So I know that. But yeah, I didn't know that was a journalism rule in Canada, though. That's really cool.
Yeah,
to figure
usually
that out.
I would assume that's a worldwide thing, but I know specifically for the states it varies on where you are. So in Illinois, we have to ask if Cam or I for the Den go up to interview someone, we have to introduce ourselves first and
Right.
then be like, is it okay if I record this? If they say yes, you can. If they
Yeah.
say no, you can't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But in Canada, there are no rules. So
Aren't any rules.
no.
But yeah, you were talking about the boss earlier. I have a line down
Okay.
which was really odd.
Let's go.
Okay.
Do I have permission to claim your body when this is all over?
Cam, I have that. I have that same quote right before I got here. I wrote this down
When I
because
said this one was
those
freaky, I wasn't
ghosts.
lying.
Like,
yeah. Let's talk more about that. Why do you what?
what?
Why'd you write it down? You know what I mean?
It's because I knew the boss was odd, and I needed proof. I mean, I can't just say
Needed proof that he was odd?
Yeah, I mean, for someone that didn't watch it, and
Right.
so I needed something to say, and verbatim, that's
Yeah.
what he said to a person that is dealing with. He was talking to Veronica, not Seth.
Right.
So
I want your fly body when we're done.
you know what I mean. So yeah, I think his character, he's not interesting, but I think he was. It's something different. You didn't want just the two, Veronica and Seth. I think he added something which wasn't necessary. I know that's what you were talking about. I know we all hate him, but it's just
Yeah.
another character that adds another emotion.
And it's a good hate that we feel.
Of course,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at this character and think about people in positions of power. Like that's such an interesting or weird thing to think about for The Fly, but that Stathis character is like a creep, white male executive at a magazine, and think about the weird sense of control he has over Ronnie, having her key apartment, refusing to give it back.
Right.
Showing up whenever he wants, saying things
Showering
like,
whenever he wants.
right,
Yeah.
showering, saying things like, do I have permission to claim your body after you're gone, just being a creep. Also, the ability to sort of set up an abortion at 2 a.m. in the
Yeah.
morning.
And that
Yeah.
poor guy didn't even get his window fixed, as far as I know.
Okay, right. But
Did-
who else can do that besides people who have a spooky amount of power, right?
Yeah.
So that's all I think about when I think about the Stathis character. I just hate how controlling he is. Also think it's a little comical that Ronnie doesn't really have the two options she has between Brundlefly and Stathis. They both kind of suck, right? I
Yeah.
mean, after the transition, Brundlefly really stinks. I think
Hopefully-
it's just sort of comical that both of these men are just it's pick your poison.
Yeah.
Hopefully Canada has better dating options for them.
I think. Oh man, what was I gonna say? I just lost it. Yeah, something that stuck out to me back to like the journal. I won't stay on it long, but just
Yeah.
going back to like that overbearing power
Yeah.
was when he took her story. Like I know how I'd feel if someone just I'm working on something, I have an idea, and they just come and take it over because I just won't sleep with you. Like you're gonna put this
Yeah,
from, and this isn't even the story isn't even publishable. I don't have all my facts or whatever. I know I'm like going on like this journalism thing, but that's because that's
No, and I know what
part
you
of my
mean.
life.
And I know what you mean too, because like between news organizations, I would say that happens too. Like if something happens and everybody wants like the big scoop, and then maybe I don't know, like AP gets it before whoever. Like the other news organizations are gonna be like, man, that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
swooped that from us. We could have had something big, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know, just for it to be one on like if
Yeah, for one-on-one, it's way more.
yeah, like if Jacob took something that I was working on, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed if anyone did it.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's neither here nor there. Well, actually, it is here or there because it's pertaining to the movie.
Don't
But
take my stories then.
yeah,
I
what?
won't don't take my stories, and I won't take yours.
Oh, Luke,
Amen.
never would, never will. There was a part in the movie when Seth he goes on the computer
Mhm.
and he is looking up what's wrong with him. He was looking at the history from when he transformed. This is
Yeah.
shortly after he finds the hairs on his back, and the lack of music there
Oh.
was odd because the music hadn't stuck out to me before.
Mhm.
I mean, there's little, rising or fade ins when something's getting dramatic, but like you said, they
never led to
never led to anything. But this one moment when we're actually gonna see something or learn something, there's no music at all, and it kind of just made me feel weird. And I have this like kind of weird with no music because you'd expect something like this, especially from a time period like this and the type of aura we're getting from it. So I don't know if you guys had any opinion on movies or opinion on the music.
Yeah, I didn't notice that silence of it as much as I did the cuts where like music built on but then led to nothing.
Mhm.
And I think that's maybe because most of the film outside of the pockets that had it were relatively silent anyways, music-wise. So I wasn't paying as much attention to where it was silent as I was where it happened. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point.
I don't know. I just felt like there was something missing, and then once I realized, oh, there's no music.
What do you think, Brooke?
Well, I think the objective was to make you feel weird and uncomfortable, right? And definitely like take any distraction away. Like music can be a distraction.
Mhm.
That was a big turning point. I mean, we know the title of this film. We saw the fly foreshadow. Like we knew he was meshing with the fly, but this is a moment where it's like it's raw. He doesn't hear music playing in the background. He just hears his own thoughts and what he's typing on the computer. And so I just feel like, okay, not having music here is just a raw experience. You're trying to experience in real time him figuring out what's happening to his body. That's a very real thing that happens to people, right? It's like, especially, we can talk more about like what you guys think this movie is about. But I think it's like pretty obvious that it's about terminal illness or aging, whichever one you want to think about. But like think about if you've experienced this before, family members who experienced this before, like when you're told that you have a terminal illness, like the music and the color from your life just drains, right? And so I just think that's representative of that, right? It wasn't appropriate to have music in this point. It didn't need the big brass section like so much of this other film had to emphasize a point. It was like, nope, we're just going to live in the moment with the character right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
You dig?
Yeah.
No, that's why I love that you're on because I wouldn't have
I
thought of anything. And not thought of anything, but just like you can explain it to me in a way, or just not even explain it. Just
That's a different perspective.
and you can articulate it in a way that's not so complex, and using.
I'm giving you the Uncle Biff version.
I don't know. It's cool that you give a different perspective. And
because I don't think
Thanks.
Cam definitely watches more like horror and scary movies than I do.
Yeah.
But I think for the both of us, the like experience with film that we have isn't as much horror based as your perspective with it is. So then you get to point out like those little details that like him and I wouldn't notice. So like
For sure.
like how I can pick out like it's in Toronto, Canada, and little stuff like that. Like I don't know if you can do that or not, but like
you just say I'm dumb.
No.
No, we have a
no, it's like the little like
journalism
things. Like
perspective.
I can't pick that out. You're picking out music.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that out. You're explaining the horror aspects.
No.
Neither of us could figure that
Right.
out. Yeah.
And-
What a beautiful thing that's happening here.
Friendship.
It's our own trifecta.
Yes.
Wow. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I think, and I'm learning more about it. You'll learn it, and when you take Drew's class, he like gives Drew Britton. Every film class I've had, I've gone out of my way to make sure it was with Drew after I had him my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love Andrew Britton, right?
great, man.
I had him when I was an undergrad. We've become colleagues, starting last year. And so he taught me how to approach films differently. Like I was talking about before when we were chatting before the show, just coming at watching a film with a less critical eye, just learning to appreciate the craft that goes into a film, right? With any film class you take, you're going to learn how to watch films differently, and it's going to break you, and you're never going to be able to watch a film the same way. But him specifically, he's taught me how to appreciate films, even that, you might not see has much value to it, right? It might have a lot of things that aren't going for it, but if it has one good thing going for it, I can point that out and appreciate the film for what it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't apply to The Fly. I think this is a 5-star.
And I think that's like one of my things with rating movies too, is that I don't think I could ever give a film less than half of a star for a rating. Because if I wanted to sit down and watch it, something about it had to have been good enough to get me to sit down and
That's
watch
fair.
it in the first place.
Yeah.
I can give something. I mean,
Like I'm not like above giving something that low of a score, but I have yet to see anything that warrants that.
Kept Woman. Watch that.
Bad.
Worst movie.
Again, the man has something to say about the female character. I've not seen that film. You could be
The
right.
Lighthouse, I know you despise.
You don't like The Lighthouse?
Negative.
Willem Dafoe.
Negative.
Robert Pattinson.
Negative. But Captain Woman is way worse.
Okay.
Says the man.
Yeah. Now you get it. Yeah.
But since we brought you, I don't know if anyone heard, you brought up your rating. Are we there yet, or did you like to talk more about different?
This is up to you. We can go to the rating. We can do that.
What do you think?
I'm good. We can move on.
You guys are tired of hearing me.
No.
That is fine.
No, we are not tired
too
of
long.
No, Cam and I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah. No, let's read it.
Okay.
All right, Cam, you brought it up. Let's hear yours first.
Letterboxd.
I can already tell you guys what he rated it.
But you don't know what I rated it
I
because
think-
you don't follow me on Twitter.
Correct.
So,
I gave this 2 seconds, please.
1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi.
I don't like you.
Yeah, your time's
I think I give it a 3.5.
It was a 3
It was definitely
solid.
a 3. We both saw it.
I see that you're trying to give it more stars after we talked about it, which I appreciate.
Now hold on. You can always go back on your letterbox and change things.
Yeah, of course you can.
But
I've given movies worse after a podcast.
You think so?
No, I've definitely done it. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here it is, a 3.
So are you sticking with the 3 or 3.5?
Yeah. Does your view change after talking about it?
It could give you different perspectives, but I think I'm gonna go with a 3 right now. I genuinely thought I gave it 3.5.
A 3 is a 3. That's average. I'm okay with that.
Above average right now, 2.5.
Okay.
I'd give it in the.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd give it a 3. All right, Mr. Brewer.
I would also give it a 3.
Yeah, I saw that coming. Okay, well, I give it a 5. I think
Okay.
that's obvious. Yeah, I give it a 5. Like I told you why I give it a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Also, I'm a crony, right? And so this is, but yeah, as far as body horror goes, I think this is one of the best films out there. I also think it's timeless, right? I didn't see it when it came out in the 80s because I didn't exist.
I don't think any of us exist.
But I definitely
My
not.
parents were barely even thought
Oh,
of. They
my.
existed, but barely. What?
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh no, my parents. They were definitely out. They were
Yeah, that's
definitely
what
out.
I'm reacting to.
Yeah.
But seeing it as a sci-fi film that today in 2024 that was done in the 80s, it still seems timeless to me. Even the technology, like the telepods, that could be in a movie today, right? That doesn't seem outdated. It's 5 stars, you guys.
Yeah, and that's like I think the bulk of why I gave it a 3 is that there's those practical effects and like the little timeless aspect of some of the designs and stuff that keeps it up, in my opinion. And I like how Goldblum and lady who plays Veronica's
Gina Davis.
Yes, I liked their chemistry together. That was pretty
Ugh.
nice to see. But there were like little minor things throughout it, like the stuff with Stathis that I mentioned, and then just like how quick it was to end out of nowhere, and just absolutely how freaky it was 2 days in. But like that little stuff for me, like kind of just docked it down, and it was more not like I heavily dislike it to take points off. It was more just like, okay, why kind of points off.
Okay.
It's fair.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I appreciate the I don't think I appreciate as much as you I don't know, some of the deeper parts of it, and I forgot what was the trifecta you said, like
The sexual awakening, self-identity, and body transformation.
yeah, I honestly don't think I'm there yet. I mean, I can understand it, but I don't think I can appreciate it because I look at films differently than you, and I might analyze them differently.
Yeah.
So by that not being my main way of looking at it, and I could hear it, I think I'd have to go back again and think of it and look at it with a different set of eyes to, get a different perspective.
I think in a few years, when you guys rewatch this, because I know you'll want to,
Okay.
you'll feel differently about it because you'll have a stronger connection what's going on here. Like as you get older and your body starts to snap, crackle, pop, right?
It's already been doing that. You think I'm joking, but I'm not.
Well, you'll just experience more and more of that as life progresses. It's inevitable. We know that, right? Like eventually we all become disabled. Like that's dark, but it's true. And you can just connect with Brundlefly on a really deep connection the older you get. Yeah.
You're moving the gun back up again.
Gosh, that's sad. But it's true. So I don't know. Hit me up in a few years when you rewatch it.
Or if we do The Fly too.
That's a different monster in its own. That cannot be compared to this movie, but we certainly can do it.
But all right,
Yeah.
man, it's been fun.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, Brooke, Mr.
Very
Brewer.
informative.
Mr.
Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Journalism.
I'm just Cam. But really,
Right.
thank you for coming on. Though I really appreciate it. I get it's a little late, 8:30. We're recording this on a Monday, so thank you for spending your night with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Luke, thanks for coming here per usual. People, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
This has been the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Cam,
I'm Luke.
I'm Brooke.
and we'll be back next week with another guest. We won't give it up yet, but you'll see us next week. See you later. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.